Hello and welcome to episode 30 of the Ski Instructor Podcast. My name's Dave Burrows and I'm the director and owner of SnowPro Ski School based here in the Swiss Alps near Champéry. This week, episode 30, I bring you a really special interview with Blair Aitken. Blair looks after the British Backcountry Facebook group and also website, and runs courses in the backcountry in the UK, in Scotland, which sort of takes people off into the wild country. And it's been an interview that I've been after for a while. Blair has come up with in connection with a number of other people that we've interviewed here on the podcast, and it didn't disappoint whatsoever. We talk a lot about his skiing background, growing up in Scotland, racing, that kind of thing. Then we go on to talk about Scottish skiing and cultural changes, how that used to be and how it is now, what it was like growing up in Scotland, and a couple of things that we touch on to do with kind of long-term weather trends and various other bits and pieces. Later on in the interview, we'll also start to talk about, the British backcountry itself and the courses they run and what they do during the winter. So this episode is going to be pretty much the Christmas special. I'm going to get this out today, and hopefully that will be with you for Christmas Day. And it's deliberately kind of light on COVID chat. It's deliberately light on Brexit chat and all that sort of stuff. I just present to you the interview as is, no interruptions, no pauses, and just this lovely chat that I had with Blair. And hopefully it's going to be some nice listening pleasure for you over the Christmas period. So whatever it is that you're up to over Christmas, I wish you a very, very Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and let's hope that 2021 brings a lot more positivity than 2020 has. Thank you all so much for listening. I really, really appreciate it. And I will see you on episode 31. Blair Aitken, welcome to the Ski Instructor Podcast. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, likewise. So there's a bit of snow on the Scottish hills, I hear.
Yeah, did you see that on Facebook? That's getting lots of people excited.
Yeah. So I'm trawling your British Backcountry page, and
yeah, we're starting the hype, which is could be it could work, or we might have just hype and no snow. But I've got fingers crossed, and hopefully it'll work out this season.
Well, there is snow. There's snow there.
Yeah, there is snow. I know there is snow, but the problem with the snow in Scotland is there's snow right now. We could go ski touring right now. We could probably go ski touring tomorrow, but we might not be able to go ski touring on Saturday because it might all melt. And it's looking like it. But that's just how it is. This is winter 1.0. There'll be winter 2.0, 3.0. It'll go all the way. It'll come and go all season.
Well, you get some quite late skiing in Scotland. Like you guys are all skiing in May and stuff, aren't you? Like that must be something to do with the weather quirk or whatever.
Well, yeah. I mean, actually, the most reliable, if you can ski steeper terrain and you can ski gullies, couloirs, then the most reliable skiing is the late on in the season. The start of the season, you have some amazing storms come in, plaster everything white, and if you can be there quickly and there the right day, you can have some terrific days. But it very much is just chasing storms. Yeah. But what happens is we get, we have a prevailing wind, have a lot of winds coming from the southwest, a lot of weather coming off the Atlantic. So what that does is it packs in the lee-facing side of the mountains. It packs in the gullies. And so, for example, you've got a big mountain like Ben Nevis. You've got the north face of Ben Nevis, and the gullies in there get absolutely hammered with snow all season. And they're quite dangerous. Actually, they're dangerous at any time, but they're particularly dangerous until the cornices collapse and things start to settle toward the end of the season. So we're not really touching that stuff till March. Right. But that sort of skiing can go on until July. We could be skiing gullies on Ben Nevis in July.
It's because you have got some hardy souls up there who try to ski every month of the year, haven't you?
Yeah, there's a lady called Helen Rennie. I forget how many years she's managed now, or how many months in a row she's managed. I think she may have taken one. Well, of course, she missed 1 month because of lockdown. Yeah. But I'd have to check that, but she's got an incredible record. Yeah.
It's amazing. So let's kind of introduce you. You're our sort of Scottish correspondent for the purposes of this, but the sort of the connection. I've seen your British backcountry stuff that you've been doing for a long time, and I've really wanted to talk to you for a long time because I think it's so interesting. But you have a connection with one of our previous guests, Lynn Neal, who now lives out towards Val d'Isère, and your name came up in conversation there. But you've been quite well involved in the British ski scene for a long time. How did you first get on skis, and what is your journey through to eventually becoming an instructor look like?
Yeah, I was very fortunate. We have a really good dry ski slope near Edinburgh, so I learned to ski there. And I got into ski racing, I'd be guessing maybe 10 years old. And then started to go up to the Highlands, Cairngorm Mountain in particular. And my parents had a caravan that we left in Lochmore campsite in the winter. So I used to travel up on a Friday night, ski Saturday, Sunday up in the Cairngorms, train slalom and giant slalom with Scottish Ski Club.
Uh-huh.
And similar background to Lynn, actually. And then eventually made it onto the Scottish team and started to do some races abroad. I was actually based in Quebec for 2 winters, I think it was, with a French-Canadian coach that lived out there. It was easier and more affordable just to stay with him and do the circuit and the sort of North American races. Mm-hmm. And then during my time in the Scottish team, I met a chap called Alistair Rainback. Now, I don't know if you met. Do you know of Ali?
No, I don't.
New Generation. So he started New Generation ski school with Warren and Tom and Richard. I've forgotten Richard's second name.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Tom Saxland is the remaining director of New Generation.
Yeah, Tom I know.
So they started New Generation together, and so Ali had taken some time before New Generation to get more experience coaching, and he was helping with the Scottish team. Mm-hmm. And he was a very I don't know the word. Just very energetic and very friendly chap, and really got me interested in other sides of the sport. And we stayed in touch over the years. And when he started New Generation, he did say to me, get yourself through the basic system, and then we'll try and get you some work out here. Mm-hmm. So I went off to university to try and do something different. And after 4 years of university, I realised I didn't really want to do anything different. I wanted to get back to the mountains.
Yeah.
And so the last couple of years of university, I managed to move back in with my parents and used all my student loans and everything to pay for basic courses. And because I was a ski racer and I skied to a reasonable level, the technical side was straightforward. And the Euro test, I had exemption for the Euro test because of my ranking. My seed points were low enough.
Oh, that's cool.
So I managed to get through that relatively straightforward, and got a job for New Generation in Maryville for Ali and the guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a year of doing that, in Maryville I ran like the GAP program for the ISIA training, and really enjoyed it and really enjoyed the team. And then Tom, Warren, and Ali offered me the chance to start New Generation in Val d'Isère. Mm-hmm. So I was starting to get interested in off-piste skiing, ski touring. Done a little bit. Well, I've done a fair bit in Scotland actually before I went out, but not a huge amount in the Alps other than to get through the basic. So I was quite interested about Val d'Isère just because the terrain there is incredible, and the access to big mountains, but non-glaciated, so it works really well as an instructor, as opposed to being a guide. There's a lot of options there. I jumped on it, and my wife and I we went up to there to start New Generation. Well, it was actually started the year before by Ken Smith, who left to create his own ski school. Mm-hmm. So I sort of more from Ken, but it was kind of like building up from scratch because obviously Ken was continuing with his own clients in his business. Yeah. I think it was must have been 8 years or maybe 9 years for New Gen. And I became a basic trainer early on in that. Perhaps a little bit too quick. I was at that age where like folk offer you stuff and you just keep saying yes. Because when you're young, you're up for everything. You think you could do everything. So, yes, I became a trainer, and because my technical skiing was fairly high level, I was sort of fast tracked through and started to run the 3 and 4 technical exams for basic, which is amazing. It's amazing skiing, and you get to ski with some incredible skiers. but it's very demanding, and I found it quite stressful because people's careers are on the line. Well, not the line. People's progressions in their career depends on these courses. I took it very seriously and very personally. I think sometimes, when I was working with people that I desperately wanted to get through these qualifications, but then just trying to stick very, very rigidly to the criteria, and it's that kind of weird kind of dynamic you're in when you're training and assessing people. I found that very difficult. But I did that for about 9 years. And during that time, met a lot of really good instructors. And Lynn and Dougie Mill, who, Lynn's husband, who they work together now. Yeah. They worked for me in Val d'Isère for New Generation.
Yeah.
We'd known each other from past.
Yeah, they talk quite highly of you when we did the Lynn Mill interview. That's for sure. When you, I think that's quite an interesting point. So you would you say then that you maybe became a busy trainer and you were running and delivering those courses? Would it be fair to say that you might have felt that you were too young at that point? To have the, what would you call it? Like not the gravitas, that's the wrong word, but like the sort of the ability to detach yourself from it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think that's the right way of saying it. Like I said, at the time I would not have admitted that, but like, looking back at it now, like that side of skiing for me, I just feel the sort of skiing I do now is so different. I don't even think of it as skiing. Like what I do now is much more akin to what a mountain leader would do in the Scottish Highlands. Yeah. And actually in the latter years in Val d'Isère, I was starting to get more and more touring bookings, and that side of the sport was much better for me. I think when you see this a lot in the Alps, I think with a lot of coaches and instructors, when you come from a competitive racing background, you carry that mentality through into your career. And that's why you get a lot of very competitive coaches working on glaciers, almost aggressive to some point, when you're racing up there to get your gates in first before anyone else gets them in, that sort of thing. Yeah. And I think you get, because there's a lot of people coming from a competitive skiing background in snow sports, you get people like I was when I was young, where they go for every opportunity. And I think when you get to when I started to deliver the basic courses, I actually really enjoyed the level 1 and level 2. With the higher courses, I've not only got a week to do it, or 2 weeks to do it if you're lucky to do a level 3 technical course. Yeah. That side of things, I think it takes a lot longer. And again, like with New Generation, with the team I had in New Generation, I was working on those basic courses with some very, very good trainers who had done it for a very long time and had been through all that stuff, and were able to. We're able to work with in these kind of stressful situations and in a much more relaxed manner. Some great trainers.
I suppose probably, once you've seen a certain number of courses like that, I would imagine that you'd be quite nervous for the outcome for some of the students if you're on your first, second, third, fourth, fifth. You might feel it slightly more personally, but I suppose once you get to, your 20th or 25th or whatever, you're able to detach yourself from the process a little bit more.
Yeah, perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I did my ACL on one of those courses, and that was that. So I didn't run anymore after that one. Oh no, that's a lie. I did actually. I was in Val d'Isère, and I was running a 4-tech, and I can't remember what I was doing. There was a lady on the course, really strong skier, and I think I was just trying to get her to get a bit more lateral. Just to explore a little bit more with like the range of movement. She had big legs on her, and she was long legs. And she was a strong skier, so I thought she could go deeper into the turn. And I remember doing this demo, and I had, for some reason, I'd taken a riser off my ski, so I was a centimetre lower than I would normally be. Right. I think I was these skis and bumps or something. Anyway, we went over, made an angle, booted out. Where your boot hits the snow and the edge comes off. Yeah. Went sliding down on my ass, and then because I was in front of my group, I was too proud to fall. So I tried to save it by just jamming in the top ski and trying to jump back on my edges. And of course, I ping over the other way, and I just hear snap. And I knew it was the ACL, and I had these Luke Bindings on. Nothing wrong with Luke Bindings, but these were old ones. I shouldn't have been using. And so the ski didn't come off, and I was like, Anyway, the group come up to help me. I'm like, I'm all right, guys, I'm all right. Try to stand up on the leg, and I just fell over and pass out, and I'm unconscious on the ground with my whole level 4 group around me, and they had to rescue me off the hill. They had to get the blood wagon in and take me off the hill. So I went to see a doctor, and he's like, it can't be your ACL, you're walking fine, blah, blah, blah. And, I've seen loads of ACLs, can't be ACL. I was like, I'm sure it's my ACL. So anyway, I remember I was speaking to Basie because I had another level 4 in Chamonix after that. And I was saying, look, I don't think I can do this. My knee's not right. And they were saying, well, we haven't got anyone else, so see how you feel.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the doctor said it was okay. So I remember I ran another one in Chamonix with his knee brace on, and I was demoing bumps, and every 5 bumps my knee was slipping out. It was just all over the place. So
yeah.
After that, I was like, you know what, this is far too much on my body, and I'm stressed. So that was the last 4 I did, and then I went back to Scotland and started doing more touring, and also I ran a few like level 1s and 2s in Glenshee, and they were the best courses I ever ran. Oh, they were so good. Really, people coming from all over kind of the east side of Scotland coming together for these courses in the Highlands, and we did have some good conditions. And they were so interested in everything that we were doing. It was fantastic.
That's really cool. The one thing I occasionally see videos. Let me get my thoughts in order here. So it's interesting, right? So when you're younger, you're right. You do say yes to kind of everything, and you kind of go down these cul-de-sacs, and you sort of I don't know. I guess you're just more curious about the world. But I think as you evolve, I've said this to a few people over the years, is that you don't until you. I think this is maybe it's a male thing, I don't know, but you don't really know what you're interested in until you hit your 30s or so. I don't think. You don't really have a sort of appreciation of actually what it is that makes you tick.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, if you look at, like, I work in education at the moment, do a lot of outdoor activities with children in schools, and the amount of pressure we put on children to decide what they're going to do.
Oh, it's terrible, isn't it?
And nowadays, that's actually not that relevant, because in a lifetime, you're probably going to have 3 or 4, 5, 6 different things that you do. It's not like it was before. And I'd imagine, I think for yourself as well, snow sports came after 2 different careers or so.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, for me.
And that's quite common, isn't it?
I think it is. One of the things I think I'm really, because my cycle, I've looked back through my life, and it's about, on average, about every 7 to 10 years, I've completely changed what it is that I do.
I think that's healthy.
Yeah, I think it is, but now I can't. This is the most interesting one. So I'm now 10 years into this project. So it's taken me sort of, in terms of like going through the system and then sort of setting up the ski school and stuff. I'm now like 10 years in, but really, if you listen to anyone who says anything about building a business, I've got at least another 10 years in front of me here, where I've now got to build what I've created and stick to it and keep going with it to build it into some sort of, lasting legacy or whatever. And that's interesting for me, because already I see other things. I think, I'd like to, maybe I'd like to go over there, but you can't, you've got to commit if you created something. You can't let all the people down that you've sort of brought into your project. You can't just one day go, oh no, I've had enough of this. It's really interesting to see that. But you're right. I think those days where maybe you left school at 16 and you're a carpenter and you're a carpenter for the rest of your life, or you work in the same company for 50 years, like that stuff just doesn't exist anymore, does it?
I don't. I think I'm just with the children I've been working with recently. It's speaking to them about what they think is going to come next, and they really have no idea. No. Whereas their parents maybe had a bit more direction. But I think we're very fortunate with snow sports that, especially if you've been able to get to a high level in another career, and then snow sports was perhaps like a hobby or a passion, and then to be able to move into that and make a living at that, that's fantastic. I mean, I was kind of the opposite to that, in that it was something I did from an early age. I would guess after leaving France, I did take a different direction in that I'm a more general outdoor instructor now, and snow sports is just one of many activities that I'm doing. And I think the change for me, and actually the interesting thing about that for me, was that snow sports helped me into these other areas. I'd done a little bit of climbing, done quite a bit of cycling, but really it was predominantly snow sports I'd done. And in the off season I was traveling and running my business remotely. But because of ski mountaineering and ski touring, I needed to upskill and I needed to be better at rope work and mountaineering skills. Navigation had to improve. And by doing a lot of courses in these areas, it actually got me interested. Well, navigation got me interested in hill walking. Rope work got me interested in trad climbing. The mountaineering skills got me interested in a little bit of winter climbing. I'm not a winter climber, but certainly interested in that side of the Scottish mountains. So actually, from snow sports, things just broadened hugely. And that's been great. That's been fantastic. So although I'm still got a similar kind of lifestyle, it's just that there's a lot of variety in the activities I do now.
It's funny. It's something I was just talking to Phil Brown about on the phone before I spoke to you, and it's interesting from a sort of snow sports perspective, because you as you climb further and further up the pyramid, you end up getting more and more and more specialised in terms of what you do, and what a lot of people will say to you at the moment, or you, I'm using you in the general term, but what they'll say is, this is an opportunity to look for, this whole COVID thing is like an opportunity to look for other opportunities or train yourselves in other ways. And so it's not that easy for a lot of people to do that, because they're highly specialised.
Everybody who's having a difficult, hard time at the moment of their career, that they need to retrain and find something else at the moment. That's a lot of people looking for something else. Absolutely.
It's and everyone's in the same boat, right? It's very it's a very interesting time, this, because let's say I'm just pulling this out of the air, but let's say that you're ski instructor based in, for want of a better example, Val d'Isère, right? Your entire business that you've been building up over the last, say, 7 or 8 years or whatever, relies on people coming to Val d'Isère, and a certain time, let's say you don't speak French or whatever, like, you're not really going to take the local market. And actually, this winter, how many people are realistically being able to get to Val d'Isère? Now, you've created something over the last period of that time, but it's sort of been taken away through no fault of your own. It's not your own incompetence. And it's not as easy as saying, I need to learn how to code and go into something, completely different industry. It ain't going to work like that, because you're so highly specialised to get to a level where you can go and teach in France, with that qualification.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very strange time over the next year or so, I'd say.
I really feel for my friends that are out there. I hope things get easier.
Yeah. Tell me about I just want to take you back. Tell me about the ski racing thing. What was your specialty? Were you a tech specialist, speed specialist? What was your?
Motor slalom. I think I was, at some point, I was maybe ranked third best in the country for slalom. Scottish champion. I think I maybe got top 3 in some British champs. I can't really remember. There was some very good guys skiing same time as me. Noel Baxter was in my age group, Gareth Traynor. They both went on to British team, and they were in the Salt Lake Olympics. I did race at the same time as Dave Ryan, very briefly on the dry slope. But he would have been a little top when I was racing. I took it as far as I could, but I'm not strong. I'm a wee guy, and I was racing against the big guys, and I sort of feel like my technical skiing was good, but I just I wasn't fast enough. But I'm happy. I kind of like in life. I like when you take things as far as you can, and then you realise, okay, that's as good as I can do in that. I've done as much as I can in that.
Yeah, I bumped up against.
And I'm quite satisfied with it. I mean, it was a strange time though, because in skiing, I was racing during the time where we transitioned into shaped skis. So I would have been racing full time. Sort of late 80s, early 90s. It was sort of mid 90s, I would say, when people, maybe about 95 or something, when people started to use shorter, more side cut in slalom and giant slalom. So it was a bit of a funny thing, and some people just they got the right kit and off they went. But I have to say, like, if that hadn't happened, I'm not sure I would have raced for so long, because it was quite hard going on the older equipment, And you didn't really have the same flow. But then when we started to use these skis, it just became so much fun, and there was no restrictions, so huge amount of height under the boot and crazy side cut, massive angles, and just wild skiing. You get spat at the courses all the time because the skis were just pinging you everywhere.
Yeah,
but it was hugely enjoyable. And then of course they caught onto the risks, and courses started to change, and the skiing changed while I was racing, so that was exciting. But I just I wasn't really physically strong enough to compete at any higher level.
I think isn't that one of the most interesting evolutions lately in slalom at the higher levels? It's certainly what I see. It looks to me like a lot of the guys are getting taller and leaner and longer.
I'm totally out of touch with racing, I must admit. I was interested in. I've been interested in grassroots stuff, like the local dry slope and some of the stuff that goes in the Highlands. But I mean, I guess like for me, it was such a big part of my life. I was quite happy. There's nothing I don't. It's not. I don't like ski racing. I was quite happy to take a step back from it all. And so at the moment, I feel quite out of touch with the current thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get somebody like Dave Ryden, it does get you back interested again, doesn't it?
It certainly does. I think there isn't, it certainly makes me tune in, for those races. I think it's wonderful to watch, and I kind of hope that we also have some couple of guys, that can come through in the sort of giant slalom as well, which would be really cool. But yeah, okay. So then this takes you. Well, no. I got one more thing, because I think it ties in a little bit with sort of technique, and I know you said you weren't, like I say, you're out of touch with the racing stuff. But when you were growing up and going through, that racing, you weren't just racing dry slope, presumably. You're racing, Scotland as well, on snow. But I suppose the question is, I know so many amazing skiers that have come out of that sort of Scottish scene, and I wonder if that's anything to do with the how variable the conditions are within sort of Scottish skiing. That when you get on some lovely European snow, it all seems a little bit easy. That's the kind of theory that I'm floating around in my head.
Yeah, I mean, well, it depends what kind of era you're from, because we've had periods where we've had a lot of good conditions, and then we've had the opportunity to get a lot of miles under our feet. I actually think a lot of the good UK skiing actually comes from the dry slopes, as much as from the snow. I think a kid that's absolutely, I was absolutely obsessed with going up to the local dry slope. I was going up there five nights a week or something crazy. The amount of repetition of a movement pattern that you get on a dry slope is incredible. Yeah. And we're just talking about Dave Ryden. There's a good example. Yeah. I think a lot of the good skiing comes from somewhere like Hill End in Edinburgh. There's a lot of really good skiers coming through there. And in the Highlands, people that are getting, I was getting 2 days a week training in the Highlands most winters. We had some pretty shocking winters, but in the 80s, 90s, it wasn't quite as bad as it has been since. If you get a period of sort of 5 seasons in a row where you can get regular training, it's a lot of miles that people are getting. And the conditions, for sure, the conditions are challenging. I think you get kind of, I don't want to say, I hate the word, but hardened to the weather as well, and you don't mind going out and training in some pretty marginal conditions. Yeah. And that's something that's really true of ski touring. Like the skill set for ski touring in Scotland is quite different to what most people need for ski touring in the Alps, because some of the days we go out in Scotland, you wouldn't ever consider going out in those days in the Alps, when the visibility is that bad, the wind's that bad. But because we have so few days, we've got to make the most of them. People are maybe a little bit more. It's a total generalization, but your average ski tourer might have more skills in navigation and be more comfortable skiing on this kind of hard, heavy, kind of icy stuff that we have when the wind scours it. So that's one thing people get used to. They get used to skiing some snow that doesn't grip so well. And you're constantly changing as well in Scotland. Don't get me wrong, you do get some terrific conditions. When the snow falls without too much wind, you have decent snowfall, then you get conditions a bit more like in the Alps, or towards the end of the season when you get a melt-free cycle, you can get some lovely corn snow. Yeah. But a lot of the time your kind of normal Scottish conditions is going to be absolutely solid, and then wind blowing soft snow. So you're constantly, you get 2 turns on some really hard icy stuff, and then suddenly 2 turns on really soft grippy stuff. So you're constantly having to adjust. Which is for sure is going to be a good thing. Yeah. But you get hard conditions in the Alps as well.
I've told this story before, I think probably on or a similar thing before, but I'm quite good mates with Peter Cool, and he's always up there. So on days where I'm like hiding in my house, it's raining or something terrible, I'll ring him up and he'd be on a chairlift with 3 clients. I'm like, mate, what are you doing? Like, he's pissing down the rain. Like, why? He's just like, it's just alright, it's just weather. You know, like, and it's just the hardy bunch, you Scots. You know, they're just out in all weathers. It's a bit of a cliche, but that's what it seems like to me.
You get some bad weather in England as well.
Well, yeah, I suppose so. Okay, so I mean, so tell me a little bit about, like, that would tie in a little bit with the culture of sort of Scottish skiing. And I was recently on one of these Basie working groups, and we were talking about, like, we would like to know more, talking to Basie about, with their recent changes and stuff, we would like to know a little bit more about, like, history of Scottish skiing and all that stuff, going back to, those boom periods in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, when everyone was up there. But, as what does it, coming from there, like, what does it mean to you sort of culturally, to be from Scotland? What does skiing mean within your communities that you hang out in?
Yeah, I mean, it's like anywhere, you've got communities within communities. So, I'm from the Central Belt, so I'm a lowlander. Yeah. So for me, it's something that I would do on the weekend. If you go back to those kind of boom periods, what was happening was there was, I don't know how many people were going up to the hills, but buses and buses and buses travelling from Glasgow and Edinburgh, and they would go up, and it would be a full weekend. You'd go up and you'd get your skiing, and you'd get your night out, and you'd get your accommodation for one night, and it was. I mean, it must be. I can't. I'm too young to remember any of that stuff, but that's my parents' era. It must be such a buzz. And having winters that were consistent as well, but then you've also got the communities who actually, like around Aviemore or Glenshea is a bit more spread out, but you've got Braemar and you've got the Gowrie, so you've got people that actually live closer to the mountains and who it would have brought money into the economy, and also they would be able to go just whenever, even just in the evenings they would be able to go out walking and skiing in the hills. It's kind of different for different people. But I mean, nowadays, you've got a really vibrant outdoor community in Scotland, and they're the sort of people that will just at the drop of the hat can just get out and you do it after work, or a bit like you see people in the Alps going out ski touring after work, and lift shot, that sort of thing, and that's kind of things happening. So it's become, I think for me, it's become like another activity that you do, like all the ones I was talking about before, like winter climbing and walking and biking. It's another activity you can do, you can enjoy the mountains with. We've got the other side to it, which is the resorts, and the people that have been using the resorts. So, for example, you've got somewhere like Glencoe, which attracts a huge number of people from the west using Glasgow in particular. So for them, it's it's something that they do maybe a couple of times each year, and you get the groups of people who maybe have one holiday a year, and they'll complement that with just a few weekends skiing up in Glencoe when the conditions are good. Cairngorm, has attracted people from Inverness, from Edinburgh, from the local area. I mean, Cairngorm's an interesting one because it's had so many challenges over the years. For people to actually make a living, like independent companies to make a living out of Cairngorm, it's been quite difficult to rely on uplift because you had problems with the train and then the surface lifts not having enough to go, and but I mean, Cairngorm used to sustain a lot of businesses in the past when it was working better. And Glenshea, like I say, Glenshea's serving quite a wide community. There's not a dense population immediately near Glenshea, but you've got Aberdeen quite close, and again very close to Edinburgh. But Glenshea is usually the less snowshoe of the resorts, so it's kind of the one that, if it's in good condition, it's amazing and everyone rushes up there. But it's quite rare these days that you get enough snow to get the full area open. It's a big area when it is fully covered in snow. And then you've got the Left, which is this a very small resort near Aviemore as well. And it's a bit harder to get to if you're from the Central Belt, but they do a really good job of making snow, and they probably have more snow days than anybody else. It's very much a kind of locals hill as well. And then the final one, which has got some incredible skiing off the back of it, is Nevis Range. So Nevis Range is one of the gondola that goes up to the cafe, and then from there you've got surface lifts, chair as well, and it's. I mean, when that's in condition, it's you've got this kind of alpine terrain dropping off the back into the back quarries. And big mountains. You're right next to Ben Nevis, and they're very impressive mountains around there. So that kind of serves the Fort William community. It's not a very busy place in the winter. I think they're more busy with mountain biking now. Every resort is very different, and it attracts different people. It depends where you're from, it depends what you're looking for. But the nowadays what you're likely to find is that it's just a mad rush for the hills when you get that bluebird day in the forecast and you've got snow on the ground. Those amazing days are very busy. So these centres, unfortunately, they have this rush where they've got to accommodate a huge number of people, and you can imagine this is only for a few days each season when these days happen. So you're trying to run a business with keeping people working for you for the duration of the year, and then suddenly this rush, and this small skeleton team has got to try and deal with
mass influx of people.
The really busy days. So it's a tricky one. So the flip side to that is you've also got this other thing going on in Scotland at the moment, which is getting back to the kind of the skiing as being just another outdoor activity, and that's the ski touring. And the beauty of that is actually you've got a massive country full of mountains that potentially have snow. You've got east, west, north, south. You've got loads of different places you can go. You've got this has always been the case. People have always travelled to Munros to go skiing without lifts. But I think it's a bit more visible now. There's a lot more information now, so that's attracting more and more people. And this is going to be very interesting because there's been a lot of interest. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of hype about backcountry, and in particular not travelling abroad, trying to do it in Scotland and England and Wales. But you can talk about it as much as you want, but if we don't get the snow, it's not going to happen. So there could be a lot of disappointed people. This might not be the solution, but it could be. It could be equally. If the two ways you can make it work, you can get lucky. We could have a cracking winter. Then it is for ski touring. It is as good as anywhere. You can have some really good days. Or if we have a marginal winter, you could just be opportunistic. You could watch the weather, watch the wind, and go on those good days. But everybody's rushing off to the ski slopes. Then you go to Ben Lawers, or you go to Dromochter, or you find somewhere with a high road or a high car park, and you make your own ski hill. And that works very well. It depends the distance you are from the hills. So everyone's got a different way of doing it, and everyone's got their different reason to be up there.
It sounds though like to me that Scottish skiing as such probably, let's say you and Baxter Freshwaters, like all of those guys that were sort of going through I'd say like the racing scene maybe 20, 30 years ago were a product of that sort of boom time when they were busing people up every weekend to the Scottish mountains, right? Then there would have been like a scene there, but it looks like now from what you're saying to me that it's sort of pivoted and it's less about the sort of the lift access but recreational skiing, but maybe more people are getting into a sort of more generally outdoory vibe and getting more into touring, and that will be the next evolution of Scottish skiing maybe.
Yeah, I mean, what we are seeing in Scotland is definitely a boom in outdoor activity and in particular hill walking through the summer. And that's caused issues in local communities because they haven't been able to cater for the amount of people wanting to camp and they park their cars, etc.
Yeah, really.
But what's interesting about that is, obviously a very small number of those would be skiers as well. Yeah. But I think there are a lot of alpine skiers who, they're wise to the difficulties of Scottish skiing, and they'll they'll have ways around it. If the resort skiers, they'll know when to go up to Nevis Range instead of Glencoe. They'll know the days that it's worth trying Glenshee, etc. Some of them might have time, might be able to get off midweek. I mean, that's the real answer. If you can get off midweek on a good day, you can go to somewhere like Glencoe and have a cracking time and not have all the queues. But then at the same time, there are also a lot of people in Scotland who have the alpine skiing skills and are also hill walkers. So they have the navigation skills and they know the mountains and they know the good places that could potentially hold snow when the wind brings the snow in the right direction. So those two skills combined, well, the thing you're missing is you just need to be able to know how to use the equipment and of course the other snow sports related knowledge like avalanche avoidance. The other things that they need to add to their skill set, but those things are attainable, and so we're seeing more and more people getting interested in ski touring and starting to put the pieces together and think, well, actually, I saw that mountain in the winter and it was absolutely plastered in snow and there's no reason why I couldn't go skiing there, is there? So it's a really interesting time, and we've managed to build a business on that, just almost by accident, really. Just people were asking us to take them out ski touring and sort of took it from there and ended up some really interesting products.
It's interesting the more and more people are getting into ski touring. I mean, I'm not one of them myself necessarily. If you saw me, you'd know that I'm not built to climb mountains. But we run every year. We run an avalanche awareness off-piste safety course, and every year we sell it out twice over. Sometimes, because I think more and more people are looking to escape the crowds, especially in these recent times, right? And it's good to have a bit of knowledge with regards to what you're getting yourself into, and maybe how to extricate yourself from it in the event that you're in a wild place with just you and your mates. I think that kind of knowledge is incredibly important, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the appealing thing for me is that it's I think it just puts you a bit more in touch with the mountains and the weather, and I like, as much as I like my time in resorts, well, not so much the actual resort, I like the mountains and I like the lift instructor and be able to zoom around these amazing places, and it does give this feeling of it being a little bit like a fairground, like you're almost trying to tame something that's wild. So when you move from that infrastructure, you really get a feeling of the wildness of these areas. Add to that the unpredictable weather, wherever you are, then you've got quite an exciting place to operate. And if you've got the skill set to be able to move through this area and to be able to deal with weather and to be able to forecast what's coming ahead of you, then it becomes very enjoyable as well, because you've still got that excitement, but you're managing the risk and you're making good decisions. And at the end of the day, when you get home, that you've had this amazing experience, but you haven't taken chances, and that's a really nice thing to do. And I think so. Of course, there are plenty of risks in a resort. I'm not saying there's not, and no, it's not a completely safe place. Of course not. In some ways, it's more dangerous because there's people around you. So you're no longer the only person that's. The things that can go wrong are quite often completely out of your control. Whereas, when if you've made a decision to go into the wrong place off piste, well, that was in your control. You just made the wrong decision. Somebody crashing into you on an archery slope. That wasn't really. You didn't have much say over that, did you?
No.
So I kind of like the fact that that the onus is on you, and with a few caveats, you can manage things yourself. And then there's some horrible freak occurrences in the mountains, and things do go wrong. But if you make good decisions throughout the day, then you really are minimising that chance. So I kind of like taking ownership of things, and I like the fact that when you move away from a prepared, managed area, it's your responsibility, and I kind of like that responsibility.
What in terms of, I know, I've seen. I've been to Scotland a couple of times, and I know what the hills look like. I mean, they're certainly not, as jagged as a sort of fairly young mountain range like the Alps would be. But do you have
Have you seen the Coolin?
Well, I'm generalising a lot.
Well, yeah, you're right, of course.
But the Scottish mountains are old mountains compared to the Alps, and
I mean, it depends what mountains you're looking at, though. I mean, the West Coast mountains, not jagged like the Alps. There are a few exceptions, but like the West Coast are steeper. and more alpine in feel. Whereas when you go to the east and you've got the cairngorms, they're very flat topped and very rolling.
Yeah, I suppose that was my question. In terms of sort of avalanche risk, are you presumably you're finding stuff of avalanche steepness, because I guess that's where you want to ski, right? When you're trying to find the good stuff. But,
it depends who you're with. You can quite easily work below 30 degrees, below 27 degrees. You can stay on flatter slopes and still have some really good days out. And because of that rolling shape of the cairngorms, it is possible to stay off the steeper stuff entirely. But we don't have the depth of snowpack that you have in the Alps.
Yeah.
So we don't have. Again, this is a generalization. You do sometimes, but in general, we don't have the amount of layers that you have in the Alps. So quite a lot of the time, the snow isn't sticking around terribly long. So we'll have it, it'll disappear. So we don't have this build up. We don't have these kind of weak layers that have been left for a long time. So I'm not saying, sorry, I shouldn't say we don't have. We do have that sometimes, but it's not as common. The thing that is very common in Scotland is wind slab.
Yeah, of course.
So again, if you think about this, imagine this kind of polished surface, and then lots of wind scooping snow up and just depositing this soft snow on top of this polished surface. Of course, that could fail very easily. So, again, generalization. The good thing about wind slab is that I do find it relatively easy to spot. It's whereas sometimes in the Alps there's so many things going on in the snowpack in the Alps. You're just thinking about a million different things that could happen. Whereas in Scotland, the things I'm more worried about are getting lost in bad visibility, taking a slip on ice, falling on a rock. Avalanche is there, but it's there among a lot of other hazards that are probably more likely than getting yourself in an avalanche. And then you have these. We had some terrible avalanches in Scotland, and we've lost a lot of climbers. There's been a couple of skiers. Most avalanche, it's not been. Statistically, it's not skiers. It's winter walkers and climbers who are getting caught in them. And I think that it might be that just because in the culture of skiing we're a bit more mindful of avalanche awareness, a bit more savvy with it, and we do tend to carry the kit as well, which isn't happening that commonly in winter mountaineering and climbing. So we've at least got a chance to do a companion rescue if it all goes wrong. So wind slab is the problem. So the problem you've got, of course, is that that snow is the nicer snow to ski on in Scotland. I was talking earlier about how you can ski hard packed ice and then skiing on this wind deposited snow, and of course the wind deposited snow is really nice to ski on. It's very good and soft and forgiving. So you're moving around the mountain. You're quite often linking up these patches of wind deposited snow. So then yes, you have to be wary of that slope angle, and if you decide that you're going to go on to that kind of 30 degree mark up, then you've got to be sure that snow's not going to release. And it does happen.
You've mentioned a few times about the snow not being as consistent as it was in the past. Based on your time in the mountains, you've been around the Scottish hills a long time. Like what trends have you seen towards how Scottish snow is coming during the winter now? Is it arriving later? Is it coming in bursts? Is it what's the trend that your gut tells you as opposed to what you read in the media?
I don't know, like as far as reading theories, and I think I don't know enough about that to say it's because of this or because of that, but certainly the weather is. I'm trying to compare it to when I was like 10 years old. That's really difficult.
It is.
Maybe 10 years old. It sort of felt to me that in the 80s and maybe early 90s, and I haven't got the information in front of me, so I'm probably completely wrong with this. But it felt to me like we were getting more regular weekends. You could get a season where most weekends you could be up north, whereas now we're getting really good conditions, and then it'll just vanish. Really good conditions and it'll vanish. But that's been the Scottish way for a long time now. We call it the hairdryer. The hairdryer's been turned on. Everything's been stripped. There's no snow left. And that's just like kind of one of the challenges that you just have to be like, okay, well, how long is this going to last for? How many days have I got with the snow on the ground before it's going to disappear again?
Yeah.
So that's why I was saying earlier, we've got like so many different versions of winter. Certainly the last few years, we've had a good November. We've had like early November snowfall, and it's been excellent. It's a terrific time to be at ski touring. The light is incredible. You got that low sun and everything's pinks and purples, it's beautiful. So November quite often has an early snowfall. You get out in the Cairngorms, it's really good. Vanishes again. Then you might get a few weekends through December, and then January is probably my least favourite month because it could be amazing or it could be terrible. You just never know what January is going to be like. And then in general, sort of February, March, you've had enough snow kind of blowing in different places that there's enough options through that.
Yeah.
You get some storms kind of February, early March, top things up. And yeah, it's so sporadic. And like I was joking with my business partner, Gavin, like COVID really, to us, it's not any different to the weather. Like we might get an announcement from Nicola Sturgeon that we are not allowed to travel from next week.
Yeah.
That's fine, because, well, we might not have had snow next week, so we have to be really flexible. Or suddenly we're allowed to travel. Suddenly there's snow on the ground. Well, let's just put a course on. You can easily round up 6-12 people that want to go skiing in the Highlands, and off you go. So I mean, folk that live here are just so used to these random winters where you go when it's good and you don't when it's not, or you do something else when it's not. It just feels like it's been like that, with a few exceptions for the last 10 years. But we've had some amazing winters. I mean, especially 2010, for example, we had a good long winter, a really nice spring in 2010 where the ski touring was incredible. The last really good one, of course, was 2018 with the Beast from the East. And what was interesting about that is that you had an easterly wind, which is less common, nice cold snow, and that covered the west-facing sides of mountains when it blew in. So you've got all this amazing terrain that you quite often don't get the chance to ski that faces west. Some of the gullies skiing off Nevis Range, the west-facing gullies there are just they're as good as the Alps and they're as long as the Alps. So you get these big storms that come in and it's like a wonderland, And that combined with the storms coming off the Atlantic basically plastered the whole country. All aspects were white, so you do get these exceptions. We're always hoping for that. So you get enough of that, every 3 years, 4 years, you get these good winters, and it's enough to keep you going. And in the poor winters, it comes back to your knowledge of the mountains, your knowledge of the weather. Have you been following the wind? Do you know where the wind's been putting the snow over the last week? And then you put all the bits of the puzzle together. Even in a poor winter like 2019, there's still plenty of stuff to find, plenty of sport to be had. It's a little bit more work.
It's sort of like a game, isn't it, for you guys? That's what it sounds like.
And it's like, I find it really interesting because I came from an alpine skiing background, and I wasn't thinking like this all the time. And now I've got to put so much more thought into my day's work than I did when I worked in Val d'Isère. But of course, there are people who've worked in the outdoor industry for a long time, and they're so used to this. This is standard stuff for them. Mountain leaders, mountain guides, mountaineering instructors. They think like this all the time. They spend their whole week thinking like this. So it's not an unusual skill set to have. In Scotland, it's just that alpine skiers now, if they want to get regular good skiing and they're looking at ski touring, they need to think more like just general outdoor enthusiasts.
More like a guide than a skier.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. So the skill set for me, I'm a mountain leader. I'm not a mountain guide, of course. But the skill set for me when I came back to Scotland full time, the skiing side of things, the technical side of the skiing, it really wasn't as useful. The mountain leader skills, as opposed to the instructor skills, were far more useful. So it's an interesting thing with qualifications as well, actually, because the BASE European Mountain Security exam is very much focused. It seems like it's focused quite on the Alps,
for sure.
Obviously, it was part of the level 4. So, if you're going to that stage of a qualification, you're probably, the level 4, you're probably looking at working in France, right?
Well, yeah, I think. I'm not sure about how much longer that will last, but
I know, not anymore. But historically, most people,
for sure,
they spend that much time and money on doing courses. They're, when they get to the they're probably looking at working in France. So the European Mountain Security, I sort of felt like it was very much focused on France, and it's a really good course. but there are bits missing from it. When you look at the Scottish Highlands.
Yeah.
And so Snowsport Scotland have got a course called the Snowsports Mountain Leader, which kind of fills in the blanks there. It looks at bad weather navigation. It looks at use of axe and crampons, using a rope to safeguard people in steeper terrain. All these sort of skills that you need when you're operating in quarries in Scotland.
Yeah. That's it. What's the prevailing weather? It's been a long time since I've been in the UK, but the prevailing weather will be what, a southwesterly,
southwesterly.
Yeah, like the Gulf Stream essentially that comes, and then it comes over the
Atlantic, basically.
Yeah, and it comes over the west ridges, and then just dumps whatever it's got.
Yeah, I mean, if you imagine how a cornice builds up, if the wind is packing snow on the lee slope.
Yeah.
And quite often scouring the windward side. So your normal conditions would be the kind of east-facing slopes and east facing slopes up northeast facing. That sort of stuff's going to fill in really nicely, which is great because there's some really good descents. I mean, for example, where I would expect to be working soon, and I could probably manage something at the moment, is Cairngorm. And you've got on the east side of Cairngorm, you've got this descent that goes. This is the Cairngorm ski resort I'm talking about, like off the back of the ski resort, the top of the mountain. You've got this east-facing slope, which is lovely, sub 30-degree slope. If you're careful, you can stay sub 30 the whole way down. Yeah. And it goes all the way down to Lochan. And Lochan is this beautiful, isolated loch. And it's got, there's like a beach on the edge of it. And you can see right down to the beach. And and that's not that uncommon. In 2019, in that really terrible winter, we were doing that with clients, and it's brilliant. It's brilliant. So there's lots of sort of famous descents that we know are going to collect snow with just a normal winter.
Yeah.
But you're always kind of hoping you're going to get some weather coming from the north or from the east, and some nice cold snowfall.
Yeah, for sure. When you're presumably some of the later season stuff. Like I'm just now I'm thinking about equipment and things. I'm looking at a picture here, right, from you in 2014 in Glencoe. You're skiing down this tiny little patch of snow, and there's rocks everywhere. Like it's pretty cool photo. But the question would be, presumably, then you're just skiing patches of snow like that late on. How are you doing the hiking? Like, are you changing out your boots? Or you're still doing the climbing of the rocks and stuff in your ski boots?
Yeah, I mean, that's not necessary. There are places you could probably go late on, like in the Cairngorms, where you could get to the snow line and you could actually ski tour, on skins and move around on the plateaus. But I mean, quite often what I would do late season is I would just go very minimal with the equipment, and I would just scramble up, scramble up some ridges or go for a walk up a footpath. Take very light equipment, light skis, light boots. Nowadays the kit is so good.
Yeah.
You can have high performance equipment, and still have like a 1 kilogram ski and a 1 kilogram boot.
Yeah.
So it's not adding a huge amount of weight to your pack. Mm-hmm. So often just up in a set of approach shoes, and then skiing a gully, maybe skiing another gully, and then walking out again. It's a really nice day.
Yeah, it's cool.
But of course, that side of when you're doing that sort of stuff, there's very little margin for error. So that your skiing has to be at a level where you're not really thinking about your skiing at all. I mean that a lot of the pictures you see being shared, that's a really small part of the sport, and it's a small part of the day as well. But they're the ones that people notice because it's exciting skiing.
Yeah, for sure. I suppose that then probably comes back to racing, right? If you've, and I'm sure I've mentioned this before on the podcast, but if you've got a racing background, especially if you've grown up on sort of variable snow, you're racing that, you're not really thinking too hard in these situations when you're in these kind of tight spots. You're not really, and some of these gullies that you've got pictures of, like the entrance to some of these, they're really tight, and my thinking is if you've got a racing background and you've grown up like that, you're not really thinking too hard about your technique in those instances. You're thinking about other factors, the technique. You're just doing what you need to do at that given moment to get that turn done, right?
Yeah, I mean, most folk that grew up on a dry slope would have had the coaches would have made them do short swings or jump turns.
The famous short swing.
You know what I mean by a short swing?
Yeah, I sure do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. I mean, I remember at Hill End on the dry ski slope when one of the toes was broken. You know, you had a one matting wide toe track.
Yeah.
You know, a matting. What's that? I can't think. 2 meters.
Yeah.
Probably not even. Anyway, so yeah, we basically have to do short swings all the way down the toe line. You know, and it goes back to that repetitive movement thing. You know, how many times have you just done this movement pattern? And a short swing, as a child, I mean, I don't know how many I've done, a ridiculous amount. You know, so be able to do that, being able to basically get your skis around and land on the edges without the ski sliding forward and landing, you know, completely controlled. If you can do that, then you know you tentatively enter one of these steep gully lines, and there's no reason why you can't go in on a rope. You know, if this is something you really want to ski and you've deemed it safe enough to ski, still go in on a rope. You know, you can be attached to a rope. Somebody, you could be moving down the rope yourself. You know, or you could actually lower it in, and then you've got that kind of safety. But so the sort of the normal way of entering one of these Scottish gullies is you would be coming in side slipping on your edges, just making sure that the snow is grippy. You've hopefully checked that already. You know, you could down or you may have climbed the gully already. You hopefully know what the snow's like, but you still want to be tentative going in on your edges and just getting a feel for it. And then, you know, once you're comfortable with it, you plant your pole, you get your first jump, and that first jump takes you right round onto your edges, complete standstill on landing. You know, you do not want to move forward at all. If you land and slide forward, which is what a lot of people do, you know, they get their tail got caught or whatever. You know, there's lots of reasons why people can't get around a jump turn. And then they slide into the rock wall on the opposite side, and then you're in all sorts of bother. So make sure that first one you're getting right round, and then after that, you know what the snow conditions are like, and then you don't have to jump. You can start to make the skis light around the corner, but you know, not quite as aggressively. And then you can, once you know, okay, this is actually all right. This is something I can do. The gradient's starting to lessen a little bit. Starting to ski normally. So yeah, when you look at the entrances to all of these gullies, they usually look horrendous. But actually, that's again due to the wind, because if you've got a prevailing wind that in the winter is building up massive cornices, you know, we can't deal with this cornice because it's too dangerous. And there's a few exceptions, but you would normally wait till the cornice is broken off and you know, slump back. But it still leaves a really steep entrance, because you can imagine the cornice is slumped back, but it's slumped back to, you know, vertical at the top, and then maybe degrees as you go in, but that's not what the run's like. You know, the rest of it is, you know, very quickly you're down to 40 and then down to 35, and you know, you do those top bits to get to the good bits. Yeah. There are some gullies that stay steep the whole way down, like you'd expect, and what you get in the Alps. But in general, you know, the corrie rims are very steep, and then they flatten off as you come into the corrie floors.
Yeah. It's amazing. I'm just in the background while we're talking. I've got this video from 2017, the Broken Lines Ben Nevis once. Some of these pictures are just amazing. Like really, really cool. Skiing down between the rocks. You know, like you could tell the snow isn't. It's a late season, sort of fairly firm. It's just amazing. Really, really cool. Really cool.
Ben Nevis is an incredible place. I mean, the north face of the Ben Nevis. So, a lot of people that go to Ben Nevis, like say it is like 3 peaks or something like that, or you just decide to climb Ben Nevis. Most people would go up. I've forgotten the right word for it. I'm going to say tourist path, but I shouldn't say tourist path. You're not supposed to call it that anymore. Anyway, the path that goes up from Glen Nevis. Which is, it's okay. You know, the first half of that path is really pretty. You've got the halfway lock in. Then after that, you're just walking up scree, and the views are good, but they're not as good as when you got from the other side. And the inside of that, you know, Ben Nevis is an old volcano, so you're basically inside this caldera, and you know, you've got ridges up on either side. There's a couple other approaches up Ben Nevis which are much more interesting up the ridges. And then on the north face, you've just got all this. I mean, it's famous. They're famous climbing routes, you know, winter climbing routes and rock climbing routes. And then between these, you've got these grade 1 gullies and grade 2 gullies. So we grade them like winter climbs. And in general, most grade 1 gullies, grade 1 climbing gullies, can be skied. And in one of the corries there, the first thing you've got at the bottom of this north face is you've got a little hut called the CIC hut, one of the very famous mountaineering huts where a lot of British mountaineers stayed and trained before they went off to do bigger expeditions. Once the winter climbing season is finished, then skiers can come and they can use this hut. And then above this hut, you've got a corrie with a little lock in, really beautiful little lock. And then you've got gully all around you. So there's this little playground for steep skiing. It's just incredible. And you can either, if it's late season, you can do one of the scrambles. You can scramble up the rocks. Or you could even potentially, and what I've done in the past is I've actually done a rock climb with the skis on the back. And then come down a gully. You know, so it's a real nice blending of climbing and mountaineering and skiing. But when we go there with clients, we just, we go into the lock in, and we, from there, we just go up the snow on ski touring equipment, and then ice axe and crampons for the steeper bit. But yeah, it's and then you've got, as well as that, you've got one of the longest descents in the country, which comes from nearly the top of Ben Nevis.
Yeah.
Tower Gully, which is probably in that film, actually. And it's steep entrance usually, and then it's got a bit of exposure because you've got to go take a right-hand turn above a cliff, and then you end up in this enormous gully called Observatory Gully. I mean, the first time you go into that, you will not believe you're in Scotland. It's just the scale of it is huge.
Yeah.
And that takes you all the way back to the valley floor. I mean, I've skied that when it's been 750 vertical meters of descent, I think it was, from the top right back down to the CIC hut.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter where you are in the world. If you're going to ski that length or run, it's enough. You won't be able to do many more turns than that. Your legs will be burning.
No, it's true. But some of this is really steep as well. So some of the stuff on the video is like, I mean, it's proper, big skiing.
Yeah, but then it depends what sort of side of the sport you're interested in. You show that to somebody in Chamonix and they're going to say that's not steep.
Yeah, well, yeah, true.
It is for sure. It's steep skiing, but it's what is steep skiing to you. And in Scotland, we've got steep skiing. It tends to just to be short sections. It's not the whole thing. And of course, when you make a film like that, you're going to show all the steep, exciting bits, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Lower down, it isn't like that the whole way down.
That's cool. Tell me, let's segue a bit. Aside from me just watching videos while you talk, on so you've got the Facebook group British Backcountry, but also that's the company that you run as well, and you run things out. Like what's the?
I mean, the group wasn't a company. It was when I came back from France. I'd started to get really into ski touring. I almost say ski mountaineering. Like I was skiing some pretty big faces, and I'd got to know a few people out there who were able to sort of help me develop my skiing. And I'd skied some quite steep stuff as well. I was getting more interested in steep skiing. But for various reasons, personal reasons, with my family, it just wasn't the right place for us. I'm not very into ski resorts. I don't really like ski resort towns. I love the mountains, but I don't like the rest of it.
Yeah.
Wanting to come back to either Holland or Scotland. My wife's from Holland.
Okay.
But Holland's not the best place for me, you can imagine.
No, there's not a great deal of mountains in Holland.
So we settled in Scotland. When I came back, I kind of felt like, I was actually going out quite a bit the first season I came back, and I was just going off on my own, and I was skiing all this stuff, and I was coming from the alpine mentality of skiing like really quite steep lines, and it didn't seem like I was kind of underestimating Scotland a bit too much. I was just, because I'd been in these big mountain environments, and I was just looking at these hills and thinking, oh, easy, and I was ticking off all these gully lines, skiing, and I was just doing it alone.
Yeah.
And then I remember one night I went up to Cairngorm in my car. I was sleeping in my car quite often, and I went up to Cairngorm in my car, and the moon was shining into this corrie where we ski quite often. And it was shining straight on this gully I hadn't skied. And I was like, well, you know what? I've skied in much worse visibility in the day.
Yeah.
So why don't I just go look at night, So off I go in the middle of the night. And, I went up to the top of this very steep gully called Jacob's Ladder. And the moon was right on it. The thing was lit up like a spotlight. It was incredible. And I was going to do that one. I was going to go into Aladdin's Couloir, which is a bit more mellow, but it's still quite exposed at the top. It's still quite serious. But I was more comfortable with that one. And I got to the top of this thing, and I was like, oh, I could do that. I could really easily do that. It's like midnight. It's ridiculous. Pitch black midnight with the moon on it. Anyway, I talked myself into it. So I was like, I'm just going to do it. Yeah. And so I dropped into it. And the moment I dropped into it, the angle of, I just hadn't really thought about where the moon was, and the angle changed, and the moon went behind one of the other crags. So basically the lights went out, and then I realised how bad the wind was, and the wind's blowing up ice into my face and all the rest of it, it's just horrendous. So did a couple of turns and realised it wasn't a good idea, so spent the next hour basically down climbing this thing in the middle of the night. And after that I was like, I should really get some friends to do this with. This is not sensible. So I'd already been basically trawling the internet for information about random gullies and stuff to ski, and I'd noticed a chap called Scott Muir, a friend of mine, who'd basically he'd been recording them all on his website, Steep Scotland. So I was using a lot of information from there and seeing a lot of other videos on YouTube and stuff. And I just thought it'd be really good just to bring all this information together, a bit like what Scott had done on the website, but on social media, just make it really easy for people.
Yeah.
And also just to basically get in touch with other people who are interested in the same sort of stuff. I thought, it can't be that many people wanting to do this like weird sport that I'm doing, in the middle of the night on a steep gully. It's a bit unusual. Anyway, so I put all this stuff together, and I kind of like things that have the same letter, British Backcountry, 2 Bs.
Yeah.
Called it that. Didn't really put much thought into it, to be honest. And then, just more and more people started to join it, and I started to. And initially, it was very much your kind of die-hard Scottish skiers. A lot of information, a lot of very knowledgeable people, and just started making loads of plans. Met some really strong skiers and ski mountaineers and climbers who were getting into skiing, and just started to do some. I just learned so much through social media, but also from then meeting up with these people and on days out in the hill, and just discovering lots of areas I hadn't even thought of. And then more and more people started joining the group, which I didn't realise would happen, and it just mushroomed. I think we're on about 13,000 now.
It's crazy.
And of course, it's just people. A lot of people are interested and not actively taking part. But the media that's been generated over the last kind of, I don't know how many years I've had that for. Must be 5 or 6 or 7. I have no idea. But there's been some really good stuff on there, like really just really inspiring images and stories of different routes that people have managed. And it's great. It's really good. But it got to the stage where it was so big that the initial kind of core people that I'd met through that group sort of lost interest in it, because you can't possibly talk about where you're going at the weekend there because there's 13,000 people in there.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
It's not a good idea. So, but what it is now is it's a nice kind of showcase of UK terrain. It's not just Scotland, there's stuff that happens in Wales and England as well, and that really interests me actually, and I'm really glad I didn't call it Scottish something. It's nice to have people from south of the border as well sharing their adventures, and also feeling like they're included in something up here. And that people are willing to share the information about the Highlands with everyone, which is great.
No, I've seen on that site, there's people skiing all over the place. Wales and I guess up in Cumbria and stuff like that. Like this.
Yeah, there was a chap out in the Brecon Beacons.
Yeah.
Like yesterday. I mean, he didn't get many turns on, but
no, but he was up there. That's
good to see. I like the enthusiasm.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so that then presumably has morphed a little bit into, there's a bit of crossover with your own outdoor business. So you're.
Oh yeah. So that's what I guess I was getting at. But with that group, there were a lot of people asking, you're a busy instructor, would you not take people out? And at the time I was like, oh yeah, but going back to the idea that I sort of felt that it was a different skill set for Scotland. So I did my mountain leader, and I spent a lot of time in the hills, in the Scottish hills, visiting the areas in lots of different conditions that I would like to take clients, and to the point where I feel experienced enough that I can lead groups in these areas. I had done a lot of leading of ski touring in around Spaskili. I'd done a little bit in Chamonix, a few other resorts as well. So I was quite happy with managing the group and your kind of hazard you'd come across in the Alps. But I waited until I'd really got to know the areas and was really happy with my skill set for Scotland before I started taking people out. And then, it was initially it was just myself. I managed to. I work with Atomic, so I'm ambassador for Atomic, especially for the backland equipment. So I'm very fortunate to work with the guys from Atomic, and they let me use some of their pool equipment, their test skis, demo skis. So I managed to build up a selection of the Atomic backland demo skis. So that meant I could just say to clients, look, you don't even have to have the equipment. You just if you meet these requirements, you can just we can meet in a car park, in Drummochter. I've got all the equipment. We'll just sort you out in the car park with the skis and off we go. So it's just made it very easy for people to try the sport without going to the expense of buying their own equipment. So it started off just like short tours and Ben Lors, Cairngorms, Drummochter, Glenshee. And then my friend who I grew up ski racing with, Gavin Carruthers, he was doing similar things for Glenmore Lodge for the National Outdoor Centre.
Okay.
So decided to go into partnership with him, and he's helped sort of take the business to the next level, and that we've got lots more products and bring a few other people in, and it's just a lot better systems, easy to book, and I kind of manage more of the equipment side of things, and just getting the word out about what we're doing. Yeah, so it's been interesting to see how quickly it grows, and it's got a lot to do with that group, that building that kind of that social media network.
Yeah,
it's kind of it's up and running very quickly.
Yeah, no, for sure. What's your go-to ski for when you're doing all of this this stuff in the background? What do you tour and ski on?
So in Scotland, I'm using an 85. So it's the Backland 85. I'm really lucky. I've got the ultralight, so it's a very light ski and very strong ski, and that's just amazing. It's totally bomb-proof. I've actually still got the ones I work on I've had for 5 years. Yeah. And I have been offered the Euro, but they're just solid. There's been no reason, so I've kept that for the whole time. But I've also got a 95 that I'm not going to the Alps this year, but I used to use in the Alps, the Backland 95, and that's got the shift binding on it. Because for teaching, it just makes so much sense. It makes sense if you're into ski touring and you're an instructor.
Yeah.
Then you just got one binding you can do everything with. Yeah. So those are the two I use most. You don't need a wide ski for Scotland.
No,
someday, and a wide ski would be great, but you more often than not, 85 is perfect. It's adequate, and even some days you can do a 78.
Well, I see a lot of the touring guys that I see around here. These crazy people who go, like you say, up after work or whatever, and the stuff they use, they're clearly the guys that are more interested in going up than coming down. Like they don't look like they're having.
So they're like on ski mountaineering skis.
Yeah, like the ultra light stuff, like
68, 70.
Yeah, they're interested in going up, like saying, and not really. It doesn't look like they're in it for the skiing down. For sure, the skiing down looks like an inconvenience to some of these guys sometimes.
I've seen guys come up and then take the lift back down.
Yeah, which is all right, each to their own. Skiing's different for everyone, but yeah, I would have thought that looking at some of this stuff that you're skiing, you're certainly not going to be on a huge fat ski. I don't think for the majority of what you're doing.
It feels clumsy. I get it. Like I've struggled with an 85 when I've been working in Chamonix. And I've been like to the point where I'm like, I'm never using this again here. It's just rubbish. And so like a 95 for me in the Alps is perfect.
Right.
Right. Kind of 90. That's just it'll deal with all the sorts of snow. Because like you'll know yourself. Like how many powder days do you get?
That you're free on, and not that often.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I worked in Val d'Isère. I would expect maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks every year where it'd be really good conditions and you get the big skis out. And in that case, you're probably not going to be touring, right? You're going to be doing lift serve stuff in the trees, trying to keep yourself safe.
I think so. Yeah. Well, and like like you say, it's got to fall on a nice day, and it's also got to fall on a day when you're not working, you're not trying to deliver lessons or whatever, you're busy doing something or other else. It's like running a ski school. But also here in the Porte du Soleil, as you well know, of Avoria, where you've done some stuff before, is only like the top of that is like 2.2. It's not mega. It's not a Val d'Isère. It's not Zermatt or whatever. And I don't really feel like I need a fatter ski than about an 85 or a 90. It's just not, it's not necessary. It just ruins your knees, as far as I can see. Now I could understand it.
I get that. I get that. I mean, I've read those reports. I think. For me though, I get quite nervous on a wide skiing steeps because you've just got this when you roll onto the edge, you just don't find the edge as quick and as I don't know what the feeling. It's almost like you don't feel it's accurate,
Yeah.
And also you're standing on a steep slope and you've got this this wide ski. You've almost got like a sort of centimetre outside of your foot, sticking out into the snow. And again, I don't like that feeling. I want the ski to feel right underneath my boot. No wider than my boot, and I just feel like I can find the edge. Of course, if you go too narrow, you've got that problem of the boot hitting the snow and you losing the edge, which is even worse. So it's like 85 for me, and I've got hobbit feet. I've got pretty wide feet, but 85 is just right. I feel confident. Actually, you've got a really good couloir, the Don de Midi.
Yeah.
You've got the Don. I'm not pronouncing it.
Yeah, the route jaune down the Don de Midi.
The obvious line down the middle of the Don de Midi. That's one of the most beautiful mountains, and in the Alps. I just love that rock climb. So I skied that a few years ago.
Did you? Right, now we're talking.
With the guys from Freedom to Ski, from the ski school, and a few other people, a few friends.
Cool.
So we climbed and skied that, and I think I used an 85 for that actually.
Now that's it. So, listener, we'll talk you through that one because it's close to my heart. I see it every flipping day, and it looks at me. So you go up. There's a mountain range called the Dent du Midi. If you want to look it up, it means middle teeth. So Dent, Dents, du, and then Midi, Midi. And if you look at the front face, if you look at the second mountain to the right, there's a sort of X almost that comes down it, and the route jaune is that's the couloir. It's quite steep at the top, I haven't done it, and I was meaning to do it, but I don't know. I haven't really. I haven't either got round to it, or as I get older, I don't want to. You don't want to be falling down that. Put it that way.
There's a little icy pitch at the bottom, which sometimes doesn't bank out, and that's difficult. But the entrance is depends. It's like everything. It's totally to do with the conditions. You could do that in the right conditions, and it wouldn't be terribly challenging.
So you go up the back, don't you? You go up past the back to South.
Yeah, we didn't go because we were working. I was working the day before, so we actually just got up in the middle of the night and just went straight up it, straight back down it.
Wow.
But for sure, if you were going to do that one, it's like a lot of these routes in the Alps. If you can do them in a nice circular fashion, the night in the hut, and see the sunset, that's the way to do it. But I've always been cramming everything into all these little projects. I've crammed them into short windows, But it was great, I got a friend called. Well, it was a ski instructor called Mike Bates. He came over from Maryville because he had a day off. That's how, if you're into this sort of skiing, you don't think twice about driving he must have driven for about 5 hours or something to get
it's a long way around from Maryville.
From Three Valleys. And then, again, a friend I used to ski, challenge skiing in Scotland with, called Peter Mackenzie, who moved out to Switzerland, and he's always wanted to ski, so up he comes. And then my boss, Pete Hughes from Avoria, he came round, so it was like just sort of met at the bottom and off we went, middle of the night. Must have been about 1 o'clock or something, I can't remember. Yeah. And it's just, if you, like a day trip like that is the hard way to do it, for sure. However, it's just such a lovely journey because you start in farmland, it's green farmland. You're walking up through a forest and then you're getting up into where all the little chalets are, transition onto seas. And then as you're skinning up through these alpine meadows, the sun's rising and everything's changing colour. Yeah. And it gets gradually steeper, and then sun's moving onto the slopes away on the far side from you. And then you're getting up into the gully, and everything's starting to get steeper, and you've got your action crampons, and you're just plugging away at it. Yeah. Get to the top, and then the sun is just hitting it. You're waiting for the sun just to soften the snow a little bit, and it's just a lovely journey. There's so many parts to it, and although it's a massive day, and you look at it afterwards, you think, wow, that was like 10 hours on the hill. It felt like it was 2 hours on the hill. It just moves. The day just moves through just so nicely. And then, of course, you get the descent, which is incredibly exciting.
Yes, yeah. Well, I've seen videos of people who've done it, and I have to say it's wider than it looks, and I guess it's
I mean, if you look at the skitour.fr or any of these, what's the other one again? I've forgotten. If you camp to camp, if you look at any of the gradings for it, I think it's 4.2. I can't remember. It's not got a terribly high grading. Yeah. But you do have the ice pitch towards the bottom, which you've got to be wary of. You need to know the conditions are perfect before you want to do it. You've also got high avalanche risk, especially as you come out of it, and risk of rockfall, and there's all sorts of things. But again, it's like we talked about Scotland. It's just it's a very different side to the sport. There's a lot more. In some ways, there's a lot more depth to it when you start to look at the actual kind of mountain environment and the weather and everything else. And I guess because if you're going to ski something like that, the technical side of the skiing is probably irrelevant because you're already skiing well enough to do it. Yeah. So it's the other bits that are important.
Yeah. Risk management, I think. Okay. So last thing I was going to ask you. So I'm just about to press go on the British Backcountry calendar 2021. So there's a purchase gone there. Which it looks terrific. Got some great images and stuff like that. How did the calendar come about?
Sorry, the calendar. I'm with you now. I thought you were talking about our course calendar.
No, sorry.
Yeah, I got an old, not that old actually. I got a used panel van last year, and I started converting it into a camper van.
Okay.
And I had this space on the side of the bed, and I was like, I want a calendar, you know. And the only calendars I had were like, you know, the ones of the kids in their, you know, in primary school. I don't want you know, the kids and their mates hanging up on there. So yeah, so I thought, well, what sort of calendar would really like? And I thought, well, it'd be just really nice to get just skin pictures. So I was looking at one of these online things where you can put your pictures in and you make a calendar. But my pictures, like, they're all just on the phone, you know, they look all right on a little screen, but you blow them up, they're no good. So I started thinking, well, I've got all these friends like Brody Hood and Hamish Frost and Ed Smith and Nader Khan, these professional photographers that are you know, that are getting these incredible pictures. I was like, oh, I'll just approach them and see if I can use some of their images. Yeah. So yeah, enthusiastic about it. And Snowsport Scotland had this idea about maybe trying to have like a competition and, you know, get lots of images together.
Yeah.
And you know, the winning 12 or 13 make calendar, but it didn't really happen last year because, you know, we had that terrible period in January and then COVID shut us down at the end. Yeah. So yeah, well, I just approached all these photographers. And it ended up being, that was like my lockdown project. I did not understand how long that would take me. Yeah. And because I was these are guys I really respect. They've got a really good eye for what works. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was getting lots of input from all these different photographers, and everyone had a different point of view, and it was an absolute nightmare trying to put it together. I got given all these great pictures, and then I had to choose which ones to use. And it was the hardest thing I've done all year. And then we had some other ones that are not professional photographers, but just stood out. You know, we thought we'd put them all together. But at the end, there's some really striking images in there. But for me, what it does is it actually it's a representation of all the aspects of the sport. Mm-hmm. You've got some steep lines, you've got some more mellow stuff, you've got different times of year. You've got Finlay Wild in there, who's famous for ski touring. He's the endurance runner and ski mountaineer. Yeah. So there's lots of different things, lots of different stories to tell in that. So yeah, it's worked out quite well. So you can get them from Fall Line, or you can get them from Craigdawn or Tyzo. We also stock in Braemar Mountain Sports and Cairngorm Mountain Sports. Yeah. Backcountry UK in Otley, they've got some. Okay. I feel like I'm missing somebody, but yeah. So basically, I just wanted to get them out in stores rather than send them out mail order. Yeah. Yeah.
That's really, really cool. How many have you sold?
I printed 500, and I've got about 120 left here. Okay. But I don't know. The stores won't have sold them all yet because it's more a Christmas thing.
Yeah, so for sure.
I'm hoping that they'll sell before Christmas.
It's going to be this year's Christmas present to myself. So I'm going to.
I would make it. I think it is quite a useful one. I've got a lot of friends. I've been sort of thinking like, what sort of things would they like for the Christmas? And yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So, if anyone wants to book you for touring, learning how to navigate, learning how to just get into the British, Scottish backcountry, where could they find you? Where's the best way to get in touch?
I mean, if you just search for British backcountry, you'll find us. So we're obviously on social media, but our website is www.british-backcountry.co.uk. That's www.british-backcountry.co.uk. Okay. Now, at the moment, that's my job for today and tomorrow. I'm going to make sure that the dates are all there, because we haven't got all our dates on that website yet, but they will be in the next couple of days. Okay. So everything from like introduction skills for people who are skiing but have never actually ski toured before, right through until the steeper stuff, which we spoke quite a lot about today. And we've also got, what's starting to happen is people are missing some parts to their skill set. So they might be a very strong ski tourer, but they've never done any rope work. So we run like rope work courses where you get a day of doing all the skills and then you go out on the second day and actually do it as part of a journey. And then we've got the mountaineering skills, and then we've got the navigation skills. So you can actually book on, if there's an area you want to develop, you can do that. Or if you've never ski toured before, we have lots of actual ski touring courses which just cover everything.
Oh, that's really, really cool. Really cool. All right. Well, look, thank you so much for taking part. I really, really appreciate the time that you've taken to have a chat.
No problem at all. All right. No, it's better, Dave. I hope this season, something's possible this season for you guys in the Alps.
Well, yeah, we've got to. I think the thing is, we just got to keep going and try and navigate the sort of the shifting landscape as best we can. But yeah, let's see how it goes. Hopefully, it will get more positive as time goes on.